and I've watched him grow up from an auctioneer at church auctions to where he is today with Steffes.
Welcome back to another edition of Steffes Spotlight. I'm Sara, and this is Bryce.
And we're at Fort Madison, Iowa at the Holy Trinity Catholic High School.
And we're going to learn the story of our youngest rep, Mason. Let's go check it out.
So my name is Mason Holvoet. I'm a sales representative out of Mount Pleasant, Iowa Steffes office. I primarily specialize in ag real estate. So we're currently standing on our family farm outside of West Point, Iowa. And I've got a lot of good childhood memories here. I can almost remember pretty much every day after school, Grandma or Grandpa would pick me or my brother up in West Point at the elementary school, and we'd come here, and we weren't going to put down our book bags, and as fast as we put down our book bags, we had to go put on our work clothes, and we'd have to go do chores, or there's always weeds to be pulled out on the field. And this is kind of where I gained my love for agriculture, is growing up on a family farm that's been in the family for multi-generation. Me and my siblings are fifth generation here. One thing that was really appealing to ag real estate, and one thing that drove me towards that, was the relationship between agriculture and the auction business. And if you look at the two different industries as a whole, you look at agriculture, it's ever changing. Great-great-grandpa, he was having horses and plows that worked the field. Great-grandma, she had old John Deere poppers and different tractors like that, and now we've got tractors with GPS that drive themselves. If you look at the auction business, online auctions have completely revolutionized what we're doing. We're no longer sitting behind microphones and talking really fast as much as what we once did. So there's a lot of correlation between the two industries, and that's why I've got a deep passion about both of them. Kind of where I started out and where I went to my first auction, it was with Dad and Grandpa at a very young age, and we would go to different farm sales around southeast Iowa. And I just remember standing there and looking at the auctioneer up in the auction topper, and I said, man, one day it would be really, really cool to be that guy that had the cowboy hat on behind the microphone. And then fast forward from there, it really developed, and into high school years is when it really started to ramp up. And we're actually currently sitting in the gymnasium where I did my first ever auction in front of people, and it was at the God's Portion Day for the Catholic school that I graduated from. And thinking back, I remembered I said before I went on the stage to Auctioneer, I sold one item, which was our class project. And I had the microphone in my hand, and I remember it was shaking so bad. I was so nervous to go up there. And then fast forward today where we can sell multi-lots and not even feel any nerves whatsoever. But so that's kind of where it started. I always remember the excitement that the auctioneer would always create at the auctions that we'd always go to. And when I first started going, I would sit on Dad's shoulders, and that way I could see over all the people, and we'd look at all the hay racks of stuff and all the equipment lined up. And I just thought it was such a glamorous thing to do. And you know, as we went on in high school, freshman year, sophomore year, I said, you know, I might want to get pretty serious with this auction profession and the business. And I remember throughout the weeks in high school, every day after high school, I would almost have an auction to go to. So I was selling anywhere between 2 and 3 auctions a week, and driving all across the state of Iowa just to get behind a microphone and auctioneer wherever I could. And I wanted to be the best auctioneer I possibly could. And as time progresses on, obviously you can see the change of the business, where you don't have to be an auctioneer to be in the auction business.
Well, I remember Mason, I think it was in 4th grade, God's Acre sale at St. Paul, Iowa. And he was out there with the professional auctioneers, imitating them. Of course, everyone thought he was just the cutest guy in the world. And some reason that bug got into him. That's what he wanted to do. And I watched him in high school when other kids were, you know, on weekends going out, this and that. He was running his own auction business the last 2 years of high school. So he has been very focused, very driven.
I worked for a lot of auctioneers in southeast Iowa and across the state, and you start to pick and choose what works with each of their business. And then as we progressed into junior and senior year of my high school, I started saying, well, I might want to do it for myself. So I ended up forming Premier Auction and Sales, and we conducted estate sales and some real estate. And one year we did 20-some auctions, and being in high school and doing that at the same time was quite a feat by itself, but enjoyed every minute of it. I can tell you the stories of Dad and I. We'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We'd have to go carry all the furniture out of the house, all the stuff, put it on the hay racks, line up everything. And the auction started at 10 o'clock, and I said, well, shoot, I'm already exhausted. We've been up since 4 o'clock. And then you have to sell all day long, and then you pack up at the end of the day. And I remember thinking to myself, I said, man, that was a lot of work to do all this. I'm either crazy or I love what I do. And the old saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, I can truly say that I found that at a very, very early age, which I've been extremely fortunate for. As time went on and I had my own business and we were rolling along doing estate sales and different things like that, I came to the realization that if we wanted to grow in the auction business, we needed a good team around us. And as senior year was approaching and I was about ready to hit the real world with the ground running, I said, maybe we need to make a change here, Dad. And we ended up going up in Tim Meyer and Terry Honig with Steffes in Mount Pleasant. I went up and talked to them. And I remember walking into the office, I was a 17 or 18-year-old kid and scared as all get out to go into this big fancy office and meet and talk to him. And I think I sat there and talked to him for 3 or 4 hours that night, and everybody else left the office and the lights were turned off by the time I left and it was dark. I just remember when on the drive home after that, I said, you know, this is a very, very good fit for me. From the standpoint of not only do they handle bigger sales and they have a lot more capacity, but they've also got good people around them with a good marketing team that can support us as we grow. So from that moment on, I kind of knew that I don't want to hang my hat anywhere else, and that's kind of how I came to be at Steffes.
$11,500 bid, $11,500, $11,500.
Mason was talking with my daughter. You know, they went to school together, and said, "Hey, would your dad? You know, he was a bank examiner for 33 years. You think he could go around with me? We could meet with bankers, some lawyers, etc." And introduce myself and tell him what Steffes does. So we had lunch, Mason and I did. We went through that. I said, yeah, sure. So we've met with probably 35 bankers and a few more attorneys. And basically I walk through what I've seen Steffes do and what he can do for them. And they're very impressed. And again, I wouldn't be there with him if I didn't believe in what they do.
With my time at Steffes, it's really advanced my career and my professionalism quite rapidly from the people that we get to meet with throughout the entire week. And one thing that was really appealing to me about the auction business is not every day is the same. You can travel from one side of the state to the other side of the state and meet with all the people in between, and it's something exciting pretty much every day. And that goes into being involved in a lot of different things through Steffes and what Steffes has allowed me to do. I sit on the Lee County Fair Board. I'm also involved in Rotary in Southeast Iowa. And then obviously with being an auctioneer, you get called to go do all the fundraising auctions. If it's God's Portion Days on the weekends or a fundraiser for somebody that has had a little bit of bad luck. So those are things that I really, really enjoy about it. It's always something different and it's new challenges pretty much every day. One of the first ever auctions that I did was outside of Denmark, Iowa, and it was a little piece of real estate and a personal property that we were selling. I think the biggest piece of equipment on the sale was a little zero-turn lawnmower or something that we were selling. And I look back at that sale and I think how many issues that we had and different problems that we had to work through. It was one of the first live sales with online bidding in the area, and we also had a buyer's premium on it too. So you can imagine those two things really threw people off. And one of my good buddies that I went to school with, Evan Myrody, I said, Evan, do you want to come out and help? And he helped set up the auction and everything else. And I said, well, do you want to sell food during the auction? Well, he said, well, that sounds all right. I can get some hot dogs and grill hot dogs and chips and drinks and different things like that. And I'll remember it was about halfway through the auction. A lady comes up to the auction topper and she says, sir, I think you're in charge, and I just wanted to make you aware that the guy selling food over there, his hot dogs are cold and he's not wearing gloves. And my response is, and I didn't really know how to respond, and I said, well, I don't think we've got anybody selling food here today. And her eyes got really big around and she said, well, then who is he? And I said, well, he's not with me. And previous to that, on the way to the sale, he brought the grill with him and the grill fell out of the back of the truck. And so he didn't have a grill to heat up the hot dogs. I think it all goes back to The greatest thing that I've learned being in the auction profession is typically we'll see people on their darkest day or the saddest day, and sometimes it's the happiest day. So it's a lot of back and forth, and you've got to be able to handle those different situations. And I always say that if you're selling a piece of glassware with me or a multi-million-dollar farm, you're going to get the same service, the same Mason, no matter what. And I think if you're able to relate to people on a personal level and help them through those situations, I think that's one of the greatest places where I've been able to grow in the auction business, especially the last couple of years. Just because you're younger doesn't mean that you haven't had some experiences in different sales histories. Everybody has their first time. I remember the first farm that I ever sold was over in Iroquois County, Illinois, and we had to go to the attorney's office to propose the auction. And it was myself and about 7 other different auction companies that were sitting in the waiting room. And the attorney came out, and it was finally my turn, and this was the first one I've ever done in my entire life. And the attorney, the first thing out of his mouth, he said, "Well, son, who drove you here?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I just got out of my car seat out in the truck, and I'm here to do my proposal with you." And I went in and gave the proposal, and we ended up beating all of the other auction companies that were there that day, and I ended up getting the sale. So there's different gratifying points like that, and everybody has different achievements in their career as you progress on, but everybody always has to start from somewhere, is the best way to put it.
I know he's well-grounded, he's honest, sincere, and when Steffes made an offer to him, it was just a perfect marriage.
Anybody that tells you they got to where they're at by themselves, in my opinion, they're so full of BS, it's not even funny. And there's so many people that have helped me along the way that I'm forever grateful to. If it's Tim Meyer, if it's Nate Larson, if it's Misty, if it's anybody at Steffes, Scott Steffes gave me an opportunity. I was 17, 18 years old when I came to him, and we had discussions, and the Steffes group really took a chance on me, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
You know, when Mason came to Steffes, I didn't know a whole lot about what Steffes Auction did. And as he tells people, as we tell people in presentations, Steffes has been around over 60 years. So there's something that he doesn't necessarily know, he finds people that know the answer. And I've seen him grow where now he's the answer guy. He knows what's going on. I think it's his hard work, his integrity, to beyond compare. And his success speaks for itself. You can ask about every banker we've dealt with. They've been very pleased with the results they got. Some of them very surprised even how well it turned out. When my uncle passed away 2 years ago, Mason's the one who sold the farm. And I would have sold it outright for $200,000. He got $350,000. So
they always say product knowledge is a very important thing, and I truly believe being able to grow up on a family farm, it's really helped me know the product that we're selling, if it's a farm in southeast Iowa or if it's a farm in northeast Iowa, and everywhere in between. Having hands-on experiences have really been beneficial to me. When people get into the auction business, you start out selling the hay racks of pots and pans and household items, and everybody wants to sell the multi-million-dollar farm and the big fancy line of equipment. And I've been very, very fortunate, and Steffes has given me the opportunities to go and sell those multi-million-dollar farms and the fancy equipment, and they've really helped me speed up the process from that regard of it. So I've got a lot of life ahead of me, so I think the future is pretty darn bright, and I'm very, very excited to see what it holds in the auction business.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of Mason Holvoet, the youngest sales representative at Steffes.
We hope you found his story inspiring and entertaining. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more Steffes Spotlight videos. We'll see you next time.